Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novi-Williams, and this is the OK Blue Jays Sports Business Podcast, the Sporticast.
Oh, working from home today, Novi. I hate working from home, but I had to. Just so many back-to-back calls. And then one got canceled, of course. So there was now a spot where I could have done some things in the office, but I did not know at the time. But it gave me more time to really ponder the World Series and the stardom of Vlad Guerrero. And I got to tell you, and we don't do a lot of on-field stuff, but if you ever doubted the benefits of excellent defensive baseball, watch this World Series and figure out why it matters. There were really some unbelievable defensive plays and throws and just instinctual stuff. Really a pleasure to watch.
Okay. I have not, to be honest, I haven't watched too much of it, but I am, and I'm sure a lot of people in baseball also very excited. It's closer than I thought it was going to be, right? This was heading into this series was the
Dodgers in 5 was probably, I didn't know, but I'm guessing Dodgers in 5 was probably sort of the most popular pick, maybe 6.
I think from a betting standpoint, the odds at the beginning were the most slanted for a World Series we've had in a very long time. And yeah, as we record this, again, it's going to be different when people listen, but as we record, we are heading into a game on Wednesday night, right? We're recording this on Wednesday, so things will be different. But this series is going to end in Toronto, and the Blue Jays are holding their own in a very real way.
Yeah, it's what do we say all the time when people talk about advertisers and this team, small market, that. I mean, obviously the Blue Jays, those Canadian viewers don't count in the U.S. metrics, but it's not about, we'll say it again, it is not about big market, small market, this or that. They would take, and I would say advertisers and networks, they would take the two smallest market teams going 7 games than big market teams being a sweep. It's about getting those final games. That's what you want. You want the series to go at least 6, and they will get at least that series, which going in, I'm not sure how many people thought that would be the case.
And so let's talk about the Blue Jays, because we've spent a lot of time talking about the Dodgers, like everyone has. We had Stan Kasten, the president of the Dodgers, on the show last week. And the Dodgers are a superlative business in baseball in a lot of different ways, right up there with the Yankees in terms of the most valuable franchises in baseball. But the Blue Jays are a fascinating business case study in their own. They're owned by Rogers Communications, a much larger tech, internet, wireless company up in Canada. They are consolidating ownership right now in a bunch of other Canadian sports teams, mainly the Toronto Raptors, the Maple Leafs, the MLS team up there. The Blue Jays and their ownership are a fascinating story as well. And I think because of the Dodgers and who they are and who plays on the team, specifically one very famous Japanese star, I do think the Blue Jays kind of are playing second fiddle here in a way that, again, with the series tied 2-2 as we record this, maybe isn't totally fair.
Yeah, you have to look at the Blue Jays as to how they fit in the portfolio. And obviously MLSE has the diamond in the Maple Leafs. That will always be sort of the principal club that drives things in Canada for sure. But you wonder with the real estate development, again, we don't talk about MLSE really in terms of the global platform companies. We often say Fenway Sports Group, Kroenke Sports, Monumental, Harris Blitzer, but we don't often get to what's going on north of the border, and we probably should. And I wonder long term what it means for the business of MLSE, which, by the way, driven by tech and, as you said, it's a communications firm, and how many people sign up for the wireless and all the ways they can utilize sports teams to drive those things and their big margin products. Long-term MLSE, could this become a public entity? Could this be
it already is. You mean a separate, like a
yes,
separate public entity?
a separate
spinoff,
a spinoff of the sports components. Yeah,
it's certainly possible. I'm sure they would study MSG Sports, right, which went through this exact process in the past few years, spinning off specifically the Rangers and Knicks and a few other entertainment sports assets into that own publicly traded company. I'm sure there's an interesting question about how that would be valuated in a public market as a standalone relative to certainly how it would be valued if it was private, or also how it would be valued as, again, where it is right now, which is part of the broader Rogers
Jim Dolan's, and we'll get to him in a minute, but Jim Dolan's always out there saying that the components are undervalued.
Yeah, I mean, that seems clear from a public equities, but again, it's already public, so in some ways it probably does already have kind of a public equity valuation. In a way, I also would argue, Scott, maybe there's a chance this goes private, right? And maybe this does an Endeavor maneuver where they decide that, we want these sports teams as a privately held company that we are invested in, but maybe there's a way to capture more valuation in that regard.
Who is the MLSC's Silver Lake?
Yeah, exactly. Like who is the private financing partner that can
you know what we should look at, because this is all happening in our favorite province, Ontario, because I spend much time there. No offense, Alberta and the others. But you know what we should take a peek? This could be the impetus for us to take a peek at Ontario teachers and all they've done in sport.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
Good idea. You'll have you give away these ideas on the podcast itself.
That's all right.
That's a good one.
We'll find out who's listening now.
So I was thinking, I had a funny experience this morning. I was thinking more about Rogers and the Blue Jays. And I remember doing some reporting about the way in which the Blue Jays kind of interact with the rest of Rogers' communication. So I'm looking for the Sporticast story and I can't find it. And I'm like, I know I did this. I remember writing it. I know I did this story. Can't find it on the internet anywhere. And I realized that it was the story I wrote as a shell if the Blue Jays landed Shohei Ohtani. If you remember back in 2023 before he signed with the Dodgers.
Shohei was on the plane
on the way.
On
the plane to Blue Jays.
Turned out to be what's his name from Shark Tank.
Exactly.
Robert Hertzovic or whatever.
Yeah. So I scrambled up a quick story. The lead is quite good. I'll read it to you.
Go ahead.
One of Canada's largest telecom companies just landed a massive potential new spokesperson. So did one of the nation's largest internet providers. So did an operator of one of its most popular television and radio networks. They're all part of the same company, Rogers Communications. And I think it is worth noting here that oftentimes when sports teams win, obviously a championship is good for ticket sales. It's good for your media buys and all those things. But when you have a team like the Blue Jays who reach the World Series, or maybe in a week win the World Series, and there's all these ancillary businesses that can benefit from the popularity of this sports team, you do see a totally different kind of business conversation. And I can give you some numbers because you talked about it at the beginning. Rogers basically has 3 business segments. The biggest one is wireless. Over, I think, a third of the Canadian population, over 10 million people, have Rogers Wireless as their provider. The next biggest segment is the cable and internet services, covers more than 10 million homes. And then the last one, obviously, is the entertainment one. And that one is growing because, as we said, they are consolidating their ownership in Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. We'll own the whole thing probably by the end of next year.
But boy, to have the content and the pipes, boy, that's a good. Remember, we used to talk about having the team, the arena, and the network.
Exactly. So I mean, if the Maple Leafs ever delivered in the playoffs, what a great bonanza that would be. But the Blue Jays reaching the World Series, doing well in the World Series, maybe winning the World Series. Yes, this helps. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to help sell internet services, and he's going to help sell wireless providers and cell phones, and he's going to help sell other parts of the entertainment portfolio here. This is the benefit of having all these things together, is that when one of these assets, particularly a really public one like a sports team, does really well, everyone else starts to benefit.
I'm sure they would celebrate if Toronto FC won the MLS championship. I'm sure they will celebrate Blue Jays as well. But I think you took a veiled shot at the Leafs still having not won a Stanley Cup in forever.
Yeah, it was a backhanded compliment, I think, because obviously the Leafs going to the Stanley Cup is worth way more than the Blue Jays going to the World Series, right? The Leafs are on a different level in popularity, in business, and in import in Canada, in Toronto as well. But
then you connect them both. You don't sell them a la carte.
So,
but now here's a way you do it together, right? You bundle something with the Leafs and the Jays and figure that out, because I want to know if Alejandro Kirk can skate. That's what I want. He's my new favorite player, by the way.
Just because of his size?
You don't look at him and say there is a dominant professional athlete. You just don't. And then, oh my God, he's really good. I like this guy. He's my new favorite. Right. I mean, I told you years ago, I was involved in a pool where you took players, you drafted players from the previous year if they have 0 to 9 home runs, 10 to 19, 20 to, and I won that pool thanks in large part to Dante Bichette, I don't know if he was hurt or whatever, didn't have a great year the year before, and I drafted Bichette, and then he hit
You're
a whole
aging
bunch of home
yourself
runs.
here, yeah.
That's okay. Everybody knows I'm old. And
Dante
not to
Bichette
see.
Sr.
Yeah, no, I didn't miss. Yeah, I'm not. No, it's not Bo Bichette. It is not Bo. I'm talking Dante in Colorado. So he helped me win that pool. So I will always feel a level of gratitude to the Bichette family.
There's something fun. So we're mentioning Bo Bichette here, obviously Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Springer.
So much of the entertainment economy now is sequels and prequels and offshoots and rehashing the same IP. In some ways, I think sports have kind of settled into there's some fun nostalgia, I think, for people who watched the parents of some of these players play to now see Mason McTavish. That's just to now see the youngsters in whatever league they're playing in. I think the like nostalgia aspect that Hollywood tries to tap into and all the TV and streaming companies try to tap into, sports has in a less intentional way has ended up tapping into some of those things as well.
Yeah, I love the picture of Vlad Guerrero when he was
great.
A kid on the field with. That's the greatest thing
and
in the world.
And that has
the
Canada tie-in too, which makes it even more perfect, right? The former Montreal team that his dad played for and now playing for the only baseball team that is left in Canada.
All right, so we mentioned Jim Dolan. He has almost a similar operation. He has he came from Cablevision, and now he owns MSG, the building, MSG, the network, and as part of MSG Sports, the Knicks and the Rangers. So very similar setup. And he made a good chunk of change, right? We got his numbers from the most recent year, and then we can talk about like where that would rank in terms of his teams. But what can you tell me where Jimmy D cashed in this year?
Yeah, this is a story that Kurt did this week. Kurt
finds the best. I love Kurt.
Across the three publicly traded MSG companies. So that's obviously MSG Sports, that's MSG Entertainment, and then this Sphere, which is not on the same fiscal year. So the number is actually a little bit higher than the 38.2 million that is reported in here. One of the things that I found interesting about this, Scott, is that, and I know this is a publicly traded company and executives have requirements and there's stuff that you have to do that is not the same for a private team. But do you think does Steve Cohen pay himself? Do you think, like, are there owners that are taking a salary? Do you think in their private sports team owners taking a salary from their teams?
I would not say no to that. Whether it's just
possibly,
pocket A to pocket B. Yes, I think somewhere an accountant has said that you should set something up this way for whatever the reason is. I don't know what it would be. Much like you would have Dan Snyder paying himself to have the Redskins at the time Commanders logo on the tail of the team plane. He looked at that as, you got one entity had to pay the other for that advertising space, even though it's just going to a different pocket.
Yeah, so that's exactly where my brain went as well, and that was a scandal of sorts, right? It was held up as like another example of Dan Snyder's kind of weird accounting and bad ownership. Jim Dolan,
I would say poo-poo to that. I would say it's probably standard practice that just doesn't get publicized a lot, and I could see it. I don't know. When Mark Cuban bought the plane, I'm sure he took every write-off possible, and if he put the Mavs logo, I think it was called Round Ball 1, if memory serves, and if he has the Mavs logo, sure, they pay for that space. Why not?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting. So looking at the portion here of Jim Dolan's salary pay that we talked about that comes from MSG Sports, and again, MSG Sports is principally the Knicks and the Rangers. 95% of his incentive award, over $3 million. And then that's on top of $1.6 million for his base salary. There's an $8.1 million stock award. There's $400,000 in other compensation. All of that comes together. $13.15 million is what Jim Dolan made in the past fiscal year from MSG Sports. That's a lot of money. And again, I know these are publicly traded companies and there's fiduciary obligations and there's a lot that goes into.
But he won the NBA championship and the Stanley Cup.
What?
That was my sarcasm. I delivered it without I delivered it without any snark.
Yeah, the basketball team is good. I would wonder, again, if does David Tepper pay himself to be the owner of the?
Oh, that I'll chime in. Yes, I'll chime in. I think Tepper does. Yeah,
I think there's some interesting accounting, obviously, that happens with these private companies. But
if you are extracting exactly zero enjoyment and fun out of your pro sports team ownership, which is where I think David Tepper currently resides, then you might as well get every tax break or whatever break you can. So I would say yes to that.
Yeah.
Right. You're willing to give up some of the cash if you're winning, and it's really just a fun asset, but. man, if you're struggling and, court of public opinion is tough, what the hell? Give me the write-off. That's where I see that going. And did you write down the cool stat in the story as to where Dolan would rank his salary in terms of if he was a Knicks player?
No, that's fun. I didn't, but let's look at it right now.
Dolan would be number 7 if he was on the Knicks payroll, behind Mitchell Robinson and his $14.3 million. So not bad. He's not even paying himself in the starting 5 of the Knicks. So that's pretty good.
Incredible. Yeah, that's great.
And you want to switch to Zimmerman? I love this story. Andrew Zimmerman?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Because we have gotten to know the celebrity chef Andrew Zimmerman quite a bit. He gave us we haven't tried it yet, shame on us, but he gave us the Peking Duck House that we should go to.
That's right.
We haven't tried it. Yeah. I'm not going to give the ad yet because they're not a sponsor of the show. No, the Peking Duck restaurant he gave us, he said it's the best in the world that he's been to. That says something. So you and I need to go there. But he has his company, KZ Provisions, and they work with the T-Wolves and the Lynx. They're based in Minnesota, but he's taking this sort of food service to professional athletes. We hear about private chefs for years, but he's taking this on scale. He's trying to. Just hired his first CEO, and Brie Rosas used to work with the teams, and he wants to take this big time. He wants to provide athletes with not only like meals in the stadiums, at training tables. It's the kind of thing where, what do you get on the plane after the game? When you arrive home from a road trip, if you get home at midnight, the science says this is what you should be eating to maximize X, Y, Z. So he's looking to get in big time and take advantage of the fact that nutrition is a hot commodity in sports these days.
Yeah, it's smart of him. I am constantly in awe of, and I do think this has changed quite a bit in the last few years, but have been constantly in awe of how there were some things that athletes seem to like really dial in about their performance and their bodies, and some things that seem to slip through the cracks. And for a while, it really felt like nutrition was one of the things that was maybe they were not as attentive to relative to stretching and lifting weights and staying in shape. And,
well, they weren't. The teams weren't. Right.
And things like that. It is changing quite dramatically right now. I do think there is still a lot of opportunity, not just for personal chefs right now, right? And a lot of star athletes, many star athletes are working with someone very specifically who is both making the food and also kind of consulting on what nutritionally is best for the way their body works, and their own sleep schedule and their own work schedule, and how they process sugar and all these other things.
Right, well, hold on. You just said how they process sugar. So I want you to show off, because you taught me this. Tell the world how you consume your food, because I chuckle every day when I look over at lunchtime and there's Novi Williams with his broccoli slaw and hot sauce. Tell the world why you are doing that.
Make me sound like a freak. Yeah. So,
come on, you're an Ironman triathlete. You are a freak.
One of the things that, at least nutrition things, that I have internalized in the past few years was learning about the way that your body breaks down sugars relative to what else you're eating at the time. And the science all says that you, and there's probably some people listening that know this, and maybe some who don't, but depending on the order in which you eat your food, your body processes the sugar differently. So if you are able to eat all of your fiber first, and then have your protein, and then have your carbohydrates and your sugars, that the glucose spike in your body from those sugars will be significantly lower than if you did the opposite. If you started off with the bread and the ice cream and then moved on to the meat and then had the vegetables. So yeah, I'm trying to basically, before I have any meal, have like a healthy dose of fiber to start, because I do think that it will offset in a positive way the way my body it reacts to the inevitable carbs that I am consuming.
Your body, which is breaking down, by the way. You've reached a certain age where you are now like me. You can't even. The other day you couldn't even walk. I had to get you Doan's pills. Those are the old man back pills I had to get you.
Unrelated, yes. I wish that you could change the order of your food and fix your spine, but unfortunately.
By the way, did you pop the Doan's?
Did you do it? Pills,
and was it better than the other analgesics you were using?
It was. So I wasn't using any other analgesics. I was using ibuprofen, and it was definitely better than the ibuprofen.
There we go.
Yeah, it was better than the Motrin. Not a sponsor. Sorry, Motrin. Not a sponsor either. Doan's pills.
We can rectify that. Old man Doan's pills should be a sponsor. Get on that, Tony Haskell. But by the way, this is all happening.
Easy segue, by the way. Are you doing the segue I think you're doing?
I'm not. I mean, I can go to the chair, but I was going to go somewhere else, like, because this popped into my head. Like, this is all happening at a time. Did you see Michael Jordan made his debut on NBC the other day, and everybody was curious to see where Michael would go. So we have this sort of rise in nutrition, and if not that I'm on TikTok all the time, but the focus group of one, he seems to find these nutrition, and I air quote, experts, former athletes or whatever, and now they're like TikTok influencers giving advice on, and to young athletes, and I don't know how they monetize this, but it's all happening in backdrop of where Michael Jordan, what did he say the other day? He's like, I don't understand load management. We never needed load management. It's garbage. I mean, you're only playing 2.5 hours a day. What do you do with the other 21 hours in your day? So you have this, like, load management is BS at a time when everybody's trying to maximize how they're eating and nutrition and rest. We know that even in travel, rest and recovery is a very big part of the industry now. It's just interesting how all the health and wellness is coming together in different forms. And at a time, I think if the athletes really embrace the science of all of it, they will be at a significant advantage versus the competition.
And there's a whole thread of former professional athletes that I think look at the stars of today and feel like in some ways the like joy of their lives have been sapped out because they're, instead of partying and drinking, they're going home and having an ice bath and a perfectly tailored meal to their exact calorie count and protein specifications. So yeah, I think that Michael Jordan is probably one of many, many athletes who look at what the pros are doing now and are shocked, confused, aghast, maybe all of those things. And yeah, I do think it's definitely a sea change that has happened for professional athletes. And you hear these stories, Dwight Howard being one that always sticks in my mind. Go listen to a clip of Dwight Howard talking about how he ate as a young NBA star.
Yeah, hot dogs.
He was basically just eating.
He was like a fan.
And soda.
Well, he was known for candy. He was known for that. Yeah,
I know. I'm just saying that, like, whatever the equivalent of a Dwight Howard star in the NBA is now, there's not a chance that all they're doing is drinking sugar and eating sugar. It's just there's likely, I won't say not a chance, but it's extremely unlikely. So yes, this conversation.
Cooper Flagg probably knows all about the sweet potato and
100%. Yeah. And Cooper Flagg went to college at a time when colleges were also changing all of the ways in which they were providing food for athletes. And if you look at the budgets for public universities in terms of what they spend annually to feed their athletes, you're looking at millions of dollars that get spent every year. The game has changed from a younger age. You're talking about your son, right? Young athletes are thinking about this. College athletes are thinking about this. And by the time they get to the pros, gosh, I hope they're not just guzzling Coke and eating Skittles all day.
As you know, the Chipotle is a sponsor of USA Hockey, and I will tell you, it has become part of the fabric of the hockey community. These kids, man, game ends, practice ends, I want Chipotle. We'll go on the road sometimes, and in between game, you try to get Chipotle. There's 3 buses there, and it's like, forget it. There's 60 kids waiting online for their beans and their,
Chipotle the ideal meal here?
I don't know if it's ideal, but you do get your carbs, you get your proteins. You're getting it all in one bowl or whatever else you want. You put the guac on top, and you're all set, right?
There you go. Yeah.
So there is a reason why I think it's working, but it really has become part of the fabric of the hockey, at least the youth hockey world.
Sure.
All right, now we'll go where we were going to go anyway. The Wizards are redoing their arena, and like, this shouldn't be headline stuff. This has been going on forever, and you and I have talked about it forever. So the Wizards are getting, this is something I've talked about for years. And to our critics, let it be clear, I'm not telling the world how smart I am. This is just something I observed 30 years ago, and they're now talking about it. But the players are getting new seats. They go up, they go down. They're heated, probably massage, all that stuff. Fine. But the basic premise is that used to be a thing years ago in the NBA that I'd laugh that they have just folding chairs. Like, anything that you and I would use for, because you're having a party and you needed extra chairs, like folding chairs for 7-foot tall guys who are sitting on the bench and their knees are up by their chests. And I'm like, this can't be good for somebody who's going to sit there for 10 minutes and all of a sudden have to go sprint and jump and do all those things. Hardly ideal. Phil Jackson, he had a chair that was taller than all of the players because Phil was pretty tall himself. But do you know why?
Did he have knee problems?
Yeah, he had knee and back issues, right? Same as you. So Phil Jackson had a chair that sat higher. However, let's take it to the next step. That created issues because the expensive seats were right behind him.
Oh, I see.
He's 6'7". People couldn't see over him. So now you're dealing with it. All comes back down to the business of it all, Eben, right? How big or how tall can you make these chairs that are like kind of adjacent to the court, because the really expensive seats right behind them will be blocked. There you go.
Yeah.
I now it's your turn to go.
when I conjure up like 90s NBA in my head, I'm seeing like Karl Malone sitting on a folding chair with like his knees, with like knee pads on them, and they're like up to his chest.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when you first said this to me when we were at Bloomberg, and I was like, oh, that makes of course, like that's absurd that these athletes are in folding chairs. And then if you think about other sports, so people who are soccer fans will have no doubt noticed that in the past 5 years or so, soccer benches have kind of morphed into these kind of
They
like
look like
big,
airline
like
seats.
gamer chairs.
Yeah, really
gamer
nice airline game chairs.
seats.
Yep.
So soccer has learned this lesson. Then you have hockey players who it's a different kind of thing, obviously, but they're literally sitting on a bench. And a lot of football players basically sit on a bench with a back, right? They're basically like metal stanchion bleacher seats with backing. Yeah, it's fascinating to think about how, again, going back to the food conversation we had, there's parts of the athlete performance recovery experience that are so dialed in that it feels like there's no more iteration to be done in terms of maximizing performance. And then you look at other parts of the athlete experience and it just feels like the lowest possible hanging fruit. And you're right, the folding chairs that NBA players were sitting on for decades falls in that category. It's the lowest hanging fruit. And to see the Wizards putting in these hydraulic chairs that move up and down depending on who you are and how are you going back in the game, how tall are you, yeah, that just seems like it's a no-brainer. And I would imagine you're going to see every team in the league with some version of this at some point in the next few years.
I had a buddy who had a chair, one of those massage chairs, but I don't think it was even on the market. Somehow, some way through his work as an engineer, he had one of these chairs, and I'm sitting in this thing, and he said, "All right, be careful. Don't stay in there too long because this is going to hit muscles that don't often get hit." So I got the heat and the massage rocking, and I'm like, "Oh my God." So I was done with the first cycle. I started it again. And then I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. So I went for like 3 cycles. Sure enough, the next day I could not walk because of like under my feet. It had rollers. Oh my God. Total pain for 24 hours. I should have listened to him, but not surprising. I did not.
Occupational hazards of a comfy chair, apparently.
Yep. All right, my friend.
All
Close it out.
Scott Soshnick. You can find him in a comfy seat at Soshnick.
No, I'm at home today, not a comfy
Evan
seat.
Williams on Twitter.
My wife has these
chair
like 2 expensive acrylic chairs. They're, I mean, I guess they're pretty firm, so that's
what kind
good.
of chair he's sitting in, but he produces.
No, it's an
the show.
acrylic thing that's not very comfortable.
Justin. And Matt Palacio, Sebastian Milo, and Carol Winston would like you to know
you
that
got a lot of names to remember these days. Well done.
Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network.
All right.